Samuel Laycock, arguably, was one of the best of the Lancashire dialect writers, although he was born in Marsden in the West Riding of Yorkshire and lived for most of his working life in Stalybridge, on the banks of the River Tame, which is now in Tameside, but in those days was actually part of Cheshire, although the other side of the River Tame was in fact Lancashire. The bulk of these poems were written during the period of the Lancashire Cotton Famine, brought on by the American Civil War, which took place in the years 1861 to 1865. On receiving news that the forces of the Free Trade supporting and slave-owning Southern Confederate states had attacked Fort Sumter in Charlestown Bay in April 1861, Samuel Laycock, like many of his contemporaries, no doubt believed the conflict would be short-lived and the consequences for Britain and Europe minor. He was to discover he and they had been wrong. The effects on the British economy and that of the textile-producing area of south-east Lancashire, north-east Cheshire, and the Salford and Manchester areas in particular, proved absolutely disastrous. The Confederate ports were completely cut off, blockaded by the superior naval forces of the Union. The south-east Lancashire and north-east Cheshire cotton mills no longer had sufficient raw material, either to spin or to weave. Immediately before the war, Manchester and the surrounding textile towns supplied no less than 90% of the total world output of finished cotton cloth, twist and yarn. Now, this concentrated hive of industry, starved of its essential nectar, no longer produced vast quantities of honey for the cotton lords and their drones, let alone any cast-off pollen for their wage slave worker bees. 9 out of 10 of the population of the cities of Manchester and Salford, and the textile conurbation around them, depended on the cotton industry, directly or indirectly. The 5 years immediately prior to the Civil War had been boom years, particularly for the mill owners and the merchants who imported the raw cotton. In 1860, the return on capital invested in the industry averaged over 30%, ranging from 25% in the least productive mills to 40% in the most efficient. In other words, a cotton manufacturer could expect to more than double his capital every 3 years. In that same year of 1860, such were profit-hungry capitalist expectations, 22 new mills opened in the Lancashire town of Blackburn, and the same number opened in Oldham. A top-paid adult cotton spinner could earn about 19 shillings a week, and a weaver 12 shillings. Now those days were over. Mass unemployment for the many, and short time working for a lucky few, soup kitchens, neighbours' charity, and, as a last resort, the seeking of parish relief for those who could bury their pride and bear to seek it, were the order of the day. Samuel had married Martha Broadbent, a cotton spinner, in 1850, but she had died 2 years later. In 1858, he married Hannah Woolley, who unfortunately died in 1863, but by then she had already borne him a number of children, although I have yet to discover how many. His third marriage was to Eliza Pontefract in 1864, and she survived him. He had another 2 children by Eliza, including Arthur Laycock, who became a novelist. Despite the dire distress experienced by the people living in the textile districts, Samuel Laycock's poetry reflects not only the solidarity of working people, but also his own sense of humour and the optimism which shine forth in his poetry. In my narration, I have done my best to make the Lancashire dialect more understandable to the modern reader. Poems and Songs in the Lancashire Dialect by Samuel Laycock, narrated by Malc. Cowle. Welcome, bonny Brid. Should be explained from the beginning that the word Brid is Lancashire dialect for bird, and it is also used as a term of affection. Pobbies are pieces of bread soaked in warm milk. Welcome, bonny bread. Thou'rt welcome, little bonny bread, but shouldn't ha' come just when thou did. Times are bad. We're short o' pobbies for our Joe, but that of course thou didn't know, did ta, lad? I've often yeard me feyther tell, 'at when I come in world mysel, trade was slack, and now it's hard work pooing through, but I munna fear thee, if I do, thou'll get back. Cheer up, these times'll alter soon, I'm bound to buy another spoon, one for thee, and as thou's such a pratty face, I'll let thee have our Charlie's place, on me knee. God bless thee, love, I'm fain thou'rt come, just try and make thysel a wome. Here's thy nest, thou'rt like thy mother to a T, but thou's thy feyther's nose, I say. Well, I'm blessed. Come, then needn't look so shy, I amna blaming thee, not I. Settle down, and take this halfpenny for thysel. There's lots of sugar sticks to sell down in town. I know when first I come to Leet, I were fond o' out at tasty sweet. Thou'lt be same, but come, thou's never towd thy dad what he's to call thee yet, me lad. What's thy name? Hush, thou mustn't cry this way, but get this supper cinder tay while it's warm. Me mother used to give it me when I was such a lad as thee in her arm. Hush-a, babby, hush-a bee, oh, what a temper, dear o' me, how thou skrikes. Here's a bit of sugar, say thee, out thy noise, and then I'll gie thee out the likes. We've nobbut getten coursish fare, but out o' this thou'll get thy share, never fear. I hope thou'll never want a meal, but always fill thy bally well while thou'rt here. Thy feyther's know I'm been wed so long, and yet the seas is middling throng with you all. Beside thy little brother Ted, we've one upstairs asleep in bed wi' our Joe. But though we've childer 2 or 3, we'll mak a bit o' room for thee. Bless thee, lad, thou'rt the prattiest brid we have in nest, so hutch up closer to me breast. I'm thee dad. There's no good in cowering in dust. Come, Dick, let's have hold o' thy hand. What a dreadful long face thou keeps pooing. These bad times thou'll ne'er manage to stand, except the mind's well what they're doing. If I've out in me house or me purse, that really ain't need on, I'll lend it. I see thy old coat's getting worse, but I'll loot thee a patch up to mend it. I wish I'd me hat full o' gowd, I'd mak somebody glad wi' me giving. I'd miss neither young folk nor owd, 'at wanted a live with their living. There's thousands of poor folk, I know, o'er hard times and poverty grieving. There's 1 or 2 lives in next row I should feel rare and proud o' relieving. But it happens as I'm poor like thysel, and I know very well they're noan shamming. Bless thee, Dick, lad, there's nobody can tell how long we're to keep on a clemming. They should help us a bit, them as gone, or some'll never live to see th' end on it. There's mony a poor woe-stricken mon will be glad of assistance, depend on it. We'n lots of brave fellas in street, low-spirited, downcast and needy, we hardly a shoe to their feet, and coats on their backs getting seedy. It's hard when a chap's done his best, both in planning and saving and striving, to keep little brids in their nest, and yet canna get 'em a living. But it's no use a whining like this. The dark cloud'll give way for a breater. I'll give me old woman a kiss, and then tune up me pipe and sing sweeter. Let's noan look so downcast and sad. There's things in the world yet that's worth seeing. As long as there's life to be had, it's no use a talking o' deeing. There's no good in cowering in dust. If I were to have me own choosing, afore I be covered with rust, I'd wear out with rubbing and using. I'll try and I'll keep up me head. Though we live a few months upon shoddy, I'm determined I'll never get dead, as long as I've soul in me body. Go home, Dick, and straighten thy face, and keep it as straight as thy table, and I'll warrant thou'll see better days, and plenty of meat on thy table. Dunna skulk in this world like a mouse. Hold thy head up and keep up thy courage. If thou'rt clement, just call at our house, and I'll give thee a spoonful of porridge. Ne'er fret about the times being bad, for they'll mend again some time, depend on it. There'll be plenty of work to be had, and plenty of wage too at th' end on it. Let us bid care and trouble good neat, for there's ne'er no good in repining. Look up, if it's no one in one's seat, yon sun up above's always shining. As the crisis developed, and famine began to stalk the land, Samuel discovered that he could sell his poems for a few coppers to his fellow unemployed workers, who often set them to music to sing in the streets for pennies. At the same time, his pen reflected the real distress that he saw all around him. I've hard work to hold up me head. Wherever I trudge nowadays, I'm certain to see some old friend, looking anxiously up in me face and asking me when times are bound to mend. I'm surprised how folk live, I declare, with their clemming and starving they han stood. God bless 'em, how patient they are. I wish I could help 'em, I would. But really I've nowt I can give, except it's a bit of a song, and the muse is an hard work to live. One's been hampered and bowfagged so long. I've tried to look cheerful and bold, and you know what I've written and said, but if truth mun be honestly told, I've hard work to hold up me head. There'll be someone as missing, I doubt, if there isn't some help for us soon. We han been jostled and tumbled about, till we welly all knocked out of tune. Our Margie, who frets and who cries, as who sits there with child on her knee, and I canna blame lass for who tries to be cheerful and gradely with me. Yon Yankees may think it's rare fun, kicking up such a shindy on globe. Confound 'em, I wish they'd get done, for they'd weary out patience of Job. We shall have to go help 'em, that's clear, if they dunna get done very soon. If our volunteers were over there, they'd sharpen 'em up to some tune. Now it's hard for a mortal to tell how long they may plague us this road. If they'd hurt nobody else but theysel, they met for out and fight till they han stowed. I think it's high time somebody spoke, when some money are crying for bread, for there's hundreds of thousands of folk down in Lancashire hardly half fed. The big men, when they hear our complaint, may treat it as gammon and stuff, and tell us we use too much paint, but we dunna daub paint on enough. If they think it's no untrue what we said, ere they charge us with telling a lie, let 'em look into the question like men, and come down here a fortnight and try. One of the big men that Samuel refers to was the famous radical and liberal John Bright. Despite his opposition to slavery and his support for the northern states in the Civil War, he didn't exactly paint himself in glory when it came to the establishment of relief committees to offset the distress of the workers, including those of Rochdale, where his own mills were situated. He attended a meeting in Rochdale in January 1862 of a committee to help the poor. Criticising the establishment of the committee, he said people should not get the idea they could spend all in periods of prosperity and then go on poor relief. He thought the Board of Guardians and the mill owners might make loans to workers to be paid back later. He could not avoid coming to the conclusion, as the Rochdale Observer of the 18th of January 1862 recorded, that the calling of the meeting was premature, According to the same source, there were then 10 or 12 mills closed and the rest on half-time, and some families had little more than 1 shilling a head a week coming in. Despite such opposition, a fund was opened in Rochdale in February to provide a soup kitchen, though its funds were to be exhausted by May. The Observer printed a recipe for soup: 65 gallons of water, 65 pounds of beef, 43 pounds of barley, 25 pounds of peas, 10 pounds of oatmeal. This was to be sold at 1 penny a quart, except to the destitute, who were to have it free. On February 8th, the paper reported that the persons presenting themselves for soup had in many instances a very respectable look, and that there were so many applicants that the soup was sold out by 10 a.m. Later, after a renewed appeal for funds, this committee began to give relief in other forms, to the sum of 3d per head per week. Resources were difficult to come by. In July, 200 circulars were sent out calling a public meeting, but only 20 or 30 replied, and not one cotton manufacturer attended. Nevertheless, in August, up to £8,000 of bread and oatmeal were being distributed each week. The Rochdale experience was not untypical. In most areas there were to be found those who were not only unprepared to give themselves, but prepared to oppose charity by others, and who used their position on committees to advance their own opinions at the expense of the unemployed. Thus several committees, including the Salient Bridge Committee, refused aid to members of cooperative societies unless they drew their last shilling out of the store. Others gave tickets for relief which could not be used at co-op shops. This question was referred to the Central Relief Committee, which replied with a lengthy opinion on January 19, 1863. Its general tone was that relief must be refused to anyone who had any resources at all of his own. But as for members of cooperative societies, the utmost which can fairly be required is that the holder should have mortgaged his share, and that he is not at present drawing any pecuniary benefit from it. In such case, the holder might fairly be entitled to relief. The relief committees were, of course, made up of the local, great and the good, and they had a deep opposition to cooperative societies. Once the relief system had been put into place, in order to qualify, workers had to pass the work test. Basically, this involved asserting 1, that they were fit for work, and 2, that they were willing to do any job available. Invariably, the men were put to hard labour, quarrying stone in the gritstone quarries of the Pennines, often in harsh weather, which work in the warm, moist atmospheres of a mill did not exactly prepare them for. And once the stones had been hewed, building new roads, again high up on the moors in many cases. The women and the children, on the other hand, were sent to sewing classes, as if they couldn't sew. Here is the sewing class song, in which Samuel displays not only a sense of humour, but a strong sense of sarcasm. Come lassies, let's cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad. We'll make our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. We'll try and mak the best job we can, how out we want to do. We read and write and spell and guess while we're at the sewing school. Then lassies, let's cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad. We'll mak our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. Our Queen, Lord Mayor of London, too, they send us lots of brass. And now at Welly every school we han got a sewing class. We han superintendents, cutters out, and visitors and all. We han parsons, cotton meisters too, come in to watch us sew. Then lassies, let's cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad. We'll mak our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. Sin the war begun and the factory stopped, we're badly off, it's true. But still we needn't grumble, for we han known so much to do. We're only here from 9 to 4, and an hour for noon. we neither stop so very late, nor start so very soon. Then lassies, let's cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad, we'll mak our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. It's nice and easy sitting here, there's no mistaking that, we'd sooner do it a fine seat and a root amongst your hat. We're ne'er no floats to unweave now, we're eating enough by mass, for we couldn't have an easier job nor going to sewing class. Then lassies, let's cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad, we'll mak our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. We're welly kilt with kindness now, we really are indeed, for everybody's trying hard to get us all we need. Then sent us puddings, bacon too, and lots of decent clothes, and what they'll send afore they'n done there's nobody here that knows. Then lassies, let's cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad, we'll mak our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. God bless these kind good-natured folk that send us all this stuff, we're gonna tell 'em how we feel, nor thank 'em half enough. They help to find us meat and clothes and education too, and what crowns all, they give us wage for going to sewing school. Then lassies, let's cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad, we'll mak our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. We're such a chance of learning now we never had afore, and oh, we shall be rare and wise when Yankee wars are o'er. There's nobody then can puzzle us without we'n learned to do. We'n getting polished up, so how we going to sewing school? Then lassies, let's cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad, we'll mak our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. Young fellows looking partners out had better come this way, for now we'n learned to mak a shirt, we're ready any day. But mind the lads who ask us twice and mak a deal ado, we're getting rather saucy now we're going to sewing school. Then lassies, let's cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad, we'll mak our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. There'll be some looking out for wise when factories start again, but we shall never cope with no one but decent, sober men. So our vulgar chaps bout common sense will have no need to come, for sooner nor with such as these we'd better stop a home. Then lassies, let's cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad, we'll mak our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. Come lassies then, cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad, we'll make our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. We live in hopes afore so long to see a brighter day, for the cloud that's hanging o'er us now is sure to blow away. Then lassies, let's cheer up and sing, it's no use looking sad, we'll mak our sewing school to ring and stitch away like mad. In order to put the sewing class song into perspective, some facts need to be made known. Although some basic literacy was taught at such schools, the main reason for their existence was to provide work for the women and children in return for the relief that they were to be given. They were employed mending and patching clothing provided by either the Lancashire and Cheshire Operatives Relief Fund, the Mansion House Fund as it was known, organised by the Mayor of the City of London, or the fund administered by the Central Lancashire Relief Committee, on which all the mayors of the Lancashire textile towns were represented. As the bulk of the clothing was donated by working people from all over Britain and Ireland, most items needed some work to make them serviceable. They were then sold to the unemployed who required them, quite often the very people who'd made them serviceable in the first place. Moreover, in order to obtain them, they had to buy them from shops which were invariably owned by members of the Relief Committee. The towns of Stalybridge, Ashton-under-Lyne, Duckenfield and Hyde tended to pay slightly more relief than some of the local relief committees. For adults it amounted to 3 shillings and 4 pence per week. for which the town's hard-pressed inhabitants were no doubt grateful, although it barely enabled most to live at anything but a bare subsistence level. In February 1863, the Queen delivered her speech, as usual, in the House of Lords, with members of the House of Commons in attendance. One Member of Parliament, Mr. Bazley, informed the House, "The distressed operatives of the manufacturing districts have received the kind sympathies not only of their own countrymen, but of every people on the face of the earth. We have had substantial assistance offered to us from every part of the United Kingdom. I have received important information from Mr. Farnell, the Poor Law Commissioner, on the subject of the pervading distress, with which I will not trouble the House, as I have received more recent information from Mr. McClure, the Honourable Secretary of the Relief Committee. It appears that in the week ending January last, that is, a few days ago, the guardians of 147 poor law unions in the manufacturing districts were affording relief to the amount of £15,612, which was distributed among 221,045 persons. From the relief fund during the same week, the sum of £39,474 was expended in the relief of 374,630 persons. The total relief was therefore £55,086, which was distributed among 595,675 persons. Now, it does not require a great mathematical genius to show that the amount of relief received per person in that particular week in the freezing cold month of January amounted to £1.10 per person. Average rents at the time happened to be about 3 shillings per week, and whilst most of the housing was owned by the cotton mill manufacturers, and they were willing not to collect their rents until after the famine, and very few in fact remitted them, they merely knocked them out of the pay of the workers once they'd gone back to work. There were other manufacturers and landlords who insisted on their 3 shillings a week. As a result, many of the occupants of houses flitted and moved in with neighbours, so overcrowding was added to the other problems caused by poverty. Such was the nature of capitalist enterprise and charity. It's what the modern condemned government calls the big society. It's hard to Cowering, Chimney Noot. It's hard to Cowering, Chimney Noot, from weary day to day, and no kind word nor loving loot to drive one's care away. My clothes are welly all worn out, and now I'm such a seat, I dunna like to walk about unless it's dark at night. To get us bread, me mother sewed our mattresses and sheets. I know it is a bitter cold, these frosty winter nights. 2 ladies kindly called one day and put us down some shoon. They said there's sheets to give away, and we must have some soon. Our Mary Jane's a bonny lass, with 2 such rosy cheeks, who goes to refuge sewing class, and has done now for weeks. Poor thing who's badly starved, I know, who's scarcely out to wear. I do so wish that somebody would call, that's getting out to spare. Her petticoats are all worn out, her Sunday frocks in holes, and then her boots, who's welly bout, they want both heels and soles. I wish me feyther had a job, he looks so strange and wild. He'll sit for hours at side at thob, and cry just like a child. No wonder he should pine and fret, and look so discontent, for gas bill isn't settled yet, and a landlord wants his rent. Me mother's been to shop tonight to fetch a bit of tay, who says they hardly look in rate because who conna pay. And who can blame 'em? Nobody can. They weren't a us by mass. If they're to pay for what they han, they'd like to have some brass. We'n lived as careful as we can, I'm sure, but after all, a great big shop's goes running on for £2-3 or so. I've eaten bacon till I'm sick, or Jimmy has and all, and if you'll ask me Uncle Dick, he'll tell you the same, I know. Of porridge I've had quite enough, for they dinna suit, I find. I canna do with soup and stew, they fill one full of wind. I'm glad of every bit I get, and rare and thankful feel I've always getting summat yet to mak myself a meal. Thank God we're never asked in vain, for folk are kind, I'm sure. God bless 'em all for what they han gan, one canna say no more. The Shirat Weaver's Song. It should be explained that during the cotton famine, the cotton manufacturers tried to keep going by using Shirat, a short, staple and extremely brittle cotton grown in what is now the Mumbai region of India. Virtually impossible to both spin or weave, the word Shirat quickly became used as an alternative swear word in Lancashire. The Shirat Weaver's Song. Confound it, I never so woven afore, me back's welly broken and fingers are sore. I've been staring and rooting among the Shirat till I'm very near getting as blind as a bat. Every time I go in with me cuts to out Joe, he gives me a cursing and baits me and all. I've a warp in one loom with both selvages marred, and t'other's as bad for he's dressed it too hard. I wish I were fur enough off out at road, for a weaving this rubbish I'm getting reet stowed. I've nowt in this world to lie down on but straw, for I've no but 8 shillin this fortnight to draw. Now, I haven't my family under me hat, I've a wife and 6 children to keep out of that, so I'm rather among it at present, you see. If ever a feller were puzzled, it's me. If one turns out to steal, folk'll call me a thief, and I canna put cheek on to ask for relief. As I said in our house t'other neet to me wife, I never did nowt of this sort in me life. One don't like everyone to know how they are, but we han suffered so long through this 'Merica war, that there's lots of poor factory folk getting to fur end, and they'll soon be not tore if the times dunna mend. Oh dear, if young Yankees could only just see how they're clemming and starving poor weavers like me, I think they'd soon settle their bother and strive to send us some cotton to keep us alive. There's thousands of folks just in best of their days, with traces of want plainly seen in their face, and a future afore 'em as dreary and dark, for when the cotton gets done, we shall all be 'bout work. We han been patient and quiet as long as we con. The bits of things we had by us are welly all gone. I've been tramping so long me house shoon are worn out, and me holiday clothes are all on 'em upspout. It were but last Monday I sowed a good bed, nay very near gan it to get us some bread. Afore those bad times come I used to be fat. Bless now, bless your life, I'm as thin as a lap. Many a time in my life I've seen things looking foul, but never as awkward as what they are now. If there isn't some help for us factory folk soon, I'm sure we shall all be knocked reet out of tune. Come, give us a lift that you are not out to give, and help your poor brothers and sisters to live. Be kind and be tender to needy and poor, and we'll promise when times mend, we'll ask ye no more. It is of course easy to forget that even in good times small businesses are dependent upon their customers for their living, and in most cases with small businesses their customers are working class people. So if workers are doing well, small businesses also do well. But if workers are suffering unemployment and cuts to their wages, small businesses do bad. So when a Tory says we need to encourage small businesses, don't be conned, 'cause those self-same Tories will be telling you that the only way business can survive is by reducing wages and keeping us competitive. Thou barber out to work, Here I'm cowering 'bout custom from morning to night. I wonder what's matter, there's summat knowin' right. How it is I'm nowt to do, I canna well tell, unless folks beginning a shaving the cell. I should like to do more nor I've done today, for I've 1 or 2 bills that I'm wanting to pay. And I'm certain of one thing, there'll be a fine row if I dunna pay Turner for gilding me pow. And then there's the cigar chap, he's coming this week, and a whole 4 and 6pence to clay for some break. If nobody comes in to bring me some brass, I shall very soon be in a pickle, by mass. There's the doctor round corner, he used to come here, never missed twice a week, being perched in this chair. But now he walks past and ne'er gins me a call. I wonder if he stopped for cotton and all. As I were coming past Morton's front window at noon, when I'd been on to Jimmy Mackay with me shoon, I'll be blessed if thou chap were no cutting his hair with a pair of big shears, it's true I declare. Ah, they'll look a fine seat when there's finished, I thought. If he comed and asked me, I'd a cut it for nowt. It's time I'd a job for me lather and brush. Hullo, there's a customer coming now, hush. Oh, it's only our Timothy bringing me tea. I shall ate a deal more nor I've getten today. What's the reason how Jamie and Ned doesn't come? I wonder if the wife bows and shaves him a home. I know why Bob Travis now gives me a call. He's letting his beard and his moustache grow. He's told me this week he doesn't intend to be shaved any more till trade gins to mend. We shall have to shut up, shall us barbers, that's all, for we canna pretend to find gas and coal. Now we canna pay taxes and rates out and out, and then there's these razors they han to be bout. Besides other matters when was about the place, such as hair oil and towels for wiping their face. There's me lather brush, hairbrush, there's soap and there's glass, and that great big wash bowl, they all tack and brass. When one's now coming in, much it acts very bad, it's enough to make people in business go mad. Now things winna so when I open this room, for I couldn't attend folk as fast as they come. Jem Thompson, poor chap, he's no better than me. He says he can hardly make hands meet and tea. And he used to do rarely, did Jimmy did so, for he mends umbrellas, grinds razors and all. I wish I was single, I do get from here. I'd sell all me razors, me straps and this chair. I'd soon steer me bark on this old ocean's wave, for I'd go to see if the Yankees were wanting a shave. If I didn't succeed and I couldn't get nowt to eat, I could list for a soldier and help 'em to feet. But I'll go and shut up while there's middling elite, for there's nobody wants powing and shaving to neat. I've waited and waited for folk till I'm stowed, but I'll no stand it long, if I do I'll be blowed. The idea of a chap cowering here by hisself, singing lather 'em, shave 'em well. If I'd somebody in here just to stick to me coat, I'd get out of a razor and cut me throat, and try t'other world, for there's nowt to do here. I'd go see if they're wanting a barber down there. As the opposing forces on the other side of the Atlantic continued to battle each other, first one side seeming to get the upper hand and then the other, the frustration of the Lancashire and Cheshire cotton workers deepened, and this was reflected in Samuel's poetry. At the same time, he had a job to do in supplying the verses for his unemployed brethren, and inevitably he had to write songs that would appeal to the better off who were being asked to provide assistance. God bless 'em, it shows they han some thought. Is there nobody to thank these good folk, no poet to scribble a line? I wish I could write ye a song, I'd mak' ye right welcome to mine. There's War, he's been writing for years, and mony a good tale too he's towed, but he says nowt about these bad times. I wonder now how he can howd. If I could draw pictures like him, and cower down and write half as well, I'd tell folk how thankful I am, but I couldn't tell half that I feel when I tack up a Papa to read, I can see there how ready folk are at helping poor creatures in need, and giving us all they can spare. We and gentlemen, ladies and all, as busy in country as out, providing for Lancashire poor. God bless 'em, it shows they and some thought. If they'll only keep on as they do, we shall all be rigged out very soon. There's one party giving us frocks, and another lot sending us shoon. The Australians has sent us some gowd for feeding and clothing at poor, and they say it's knowing all we mun have, for they're busy collecting us more. And th' Indians are helping and all, I reckon they're grateful for th' past, so they'll give us a bit of a lift for helping them out when they'n fast. We and clogs and we and clothes ganners now, there's both second-handed and new. Some are giving us soup twice a week, and others are giving us stew. We're rare and well done too, I'm sure, for we've fed and we clothed and we tout. They're paying us for going to school, and giving us good learning for now. God bless 'em for all that they've done, and I hope they'll keep doing as well, till the dark cloud of tangs o'er's blown away, and we're able to do for ourselves. Excuse me for writing these lines, for it's no use I canna be still. As long as they help us to live, I'll thank 'em if nobody else will. Some of the cotton workers were lucky enough to have access to allotments, whilst others, and loom weavers in particular, living on the edge of town, sometimes had their own gardens. This again found reflection in Samuel's poetry. I've turned me bit of garden o'er. I've turned me bit of garden o'er, and set me seed and all, so and now I've done, I'll rest a bit, and sit and watch it grow. It's nice to have a little spot where one can cower 'em down, a quiet, comfortable place, outside at busy town, where one can sit and smoke their pipe and have a friendly chat, or read the newspaper or a bit, or talk about Sharat, or listen to some old man's tale, some veteran come from wars. I like to hear 'em spin the yarn, and show their wounds and scars. One night I thought I'd take a walk as far as Thunter's Tower, to beg a daisy root or two. Tom's gone me mony a flower. They're blooming in me garden now, I've such a bonny show. I've daisies, pinks, carnations too, and polyants and all. You couldn't think how proud I feel of every plant and flower. I couldn't a care for children more, I've nursed 'em many a hour. But though they now look fresh and fair, they'll droop their yeds and dee. They hanna long to tarry here, they're just like you and me. Dark-looking clouds are gathering round, I think it's bound to rain. There's nowt could please me better now, I should be rare and fain. Me bit of seed wants degging o'er, to help to mak it sprout. It's summat like a child's first teeth, and wantin' helping out. But I'll be off afore I'm wet, it's getting reet agate, and while it comes I think I'll get a bit of summat take. For oh, it is a hungry job, this working out at door. The committee should allow for this, and give one rather more. I should so like a good blowout, a feed of beefsteak pie, but I can ne'er get nowt like that, with a bit I draw, not I. I'm glad enough for porridge now, or 2-3 cold potatoes. If I can get enough of these, I stew till factory gates. It's well again or raining, so I'll have another look, and see how garden's getting on, and then I'll get a boot, and read an hour or two for wife, and sing a bit for Ted, then poo me clogs off, fasten doors, and walk upstairs to bed. In the next poem, we find Samuel once more trying to cheer up a mate in worse circumstances than himself. What's up with thee, Tom? Mon, thou's down thy yed like a thief, and there's no one getting a pluck of a louse. Now what's the use on thee nursing thy grief? Get up, or I'll give thee a souse. Mon, that welly a sharm to be seen. Art a moutin, or what dost to ale? Come up that wheat from the e'en, for I've browt thee some bacon and ale. I dare say that hungry old lad, and thy wife there who looks like a ghost. Your Jonathan's welly as bad, and your Nelly, poor thing, who looks lost. Hast a bit of a pon anywhere, that'll fry you a collop or two, and I'll run for a pint of small beer from old Mally Dawson's in Brew. Never mind, Jim, we need no small drink. We can manage 'bout swilling it down. And thank thee, and mony a time think that the best-natured chap in this town. God bless thee, and thank thee again. If it were not for thee and your Sam bringing summat to eat now and then, I believe we should all have to clam. This morning out Alice, next door, come in with a potful of tea, and oh, some thankful we were, for it's all we had to live on today. We've been out a-begging sin noon. Just look how me stockings are wet. It's me having big holes in me shoon, but the knows, Jim, they're the best one can get. Well, lad, I know how you are, and I'm known so much better mysel. As long as I may have out to spare, it's hard for a body to tell. But as long as I've got an out to give, that's sure to be one I shall serve. I shall help an house shopmate to live, and see at that no one left to starve. Send your Nelly to cobbler's tonight. I'm in Cobbler Jack's down in Fowd, and I'll buy thee some shoon to thy feet, for that getting thy death wi' cowed. And I'll speak to old Mistress Scholes to loot the wife up a bit of a dress, for that who has on's full o' holes, but who's getting no better, I guess. Now, Tom, lad, that crying I see. Come cheer up as well as tha con. There's no one been forgotten, thou'll see. There's folk as can feel for thee, mon. There's no one been 'bout trouble, I know. It's no wonder to me tha should fret, but there's room in the world yet for us all. Mon, there's no need to hang thyself yet. Tom, I knew thee when thou were a lad, living the next door but one to Brown Cow. Thy heart then were lightsome and glad. What I want is to see it so now. Thou'rt welcome to my little mite, for I canna afford a big sum, but as long as I've getten a bite, thou shall have half on it, that thou shalt, Tom. The celebration of Whip Week was a big thing in Lancashire in the past, and everybody turned out to watch the scholars participate in the whip walks. The scholars, of course, being the local children. I've just been a-looking at scholars. God bless 'em, how happy I feel to find that they han been so well done to, and see 'em all looking so well. There's Charlie, he's getting new breeches, and Anna Maria's new shoon, while old Billy Way's youngest daughter, who does cut a dash to some tune. There has been some planning and scheming. There has been some sugarless tea, and butter cake setting 'bout butter, to get these fine things for today. Now isn't it really surprising how well the little childer appear, when brass is so hard to get hold on, and wearing things getting so dear? If it weren't for the kind-hearted women, God bless 'em all, helping us through, while things are so dreadfully awkward, I dunna know what we should do. If Mary Ann wants a new bonnet, or Frederick James a new hat, they'll manage to get 'em as somehow. They'll either beg, borrow, or swap. There's lots of old faded silk dresses been used to mak little frocks on. We've got an old coat of me feyther's to mak up a suit for our John. I've seen little Emily Thompson, who was some and pretty for sure. There's nobody would ever imagine her feyther and mother's are poor. But folks have to scheme and do all roads, and the rich about here never dream how one half at neighbours about 'em for a bare touring on after scheme. For while they're getting so much to stir on that they hardly know what to do with it, there's mony a poor child round about 'em with hardly a shoe to its feet. I wish I were wealthy like some folk, and had summat to spare I could give. I'd do what this heart of mine prompts me, I'd help those about me to live. I'd lighten poor folk of their burdens, I'd cheer mony hearts that were sad, while those that were troubled and downcast, I'd try to mak' cheerful and glad. How is it that folks are so hampered, with such an abundance in land? How is it that some are in tatters, while others are gaudily donned? How is it that some can be living in splendour in fine marble halls, while others are clemming and starving, with nought in their seat but bare walls? God's good and provides us with plenty. There's mate and there's clothes for us all. But these good things they're hard to get hold on, these blessings that ceaselessly flow. They seem to be stopped on their journey and lay down at rich folks' door. Well, it's happened for best that it is so. God help those that's needy and poor. Towards the end of 1864, the reports coming across the Atlantic seemed to indicate that the Union forces would eventually triumph in America, although the Civil War was far from over. Nonetheless, hope once again began to raise its head within Samuel's poetry. Cheer up a bit longer. Cheer up a bit longer, me brothers in want. There's bread today's for us in store. There'll be plenty of tommy and work for us all when they start looking clouds blowing o'er. You and struggled reet nobly and battled reet hard while things have been looking so foul. You and borne with your troubles and trials so long, and it's no use of giving up now. Feet on as you have done, and victory's sure, for the battle seems very near won. Be firm if you're suffering and dunna give way, for they're nowt but cowards that run. You know how they han praised us for standing so firm, and shall we now stagger and fall? Not we. If we but brace up and be hard, we can stand a bit longer, I know. It's hard to keep clemming and starving, it's true, and it's hard to see little things fret, because there's no butter gates for 'em to ate, but we can always keep pulling through yet. As bad as times are, and as foul as things look, one's certain they might have been worse, for we ain't getting a trifle of summits of her, although it's been poorish piking, of course. I begged on you to keep up your courage afore, and now let me ask you once more. Let's no one get disheartened, there's hope for us yet. We needn't despair, though we're poor. We cannot expect it'll always be fine. It start for a while, and then clear. We han mirth mixed with sadness, and pleasure with pain, and shall have so long as we're here. This world's full of changes for better or worse, and this is one change among rook. We're in a time of prosperity, time of success, and then we're in a round of bad luck. We're basking in sunshine at one time at day, at other times cowering in dark. Today finds us hearty and busy as out, tomorrow may be ill and 'bout work. God bless you, me brothers, we're no but on tramp, we never stay long at one spot. And while we keep knocking about in this world, disappointments will fall to our lot. So the best thing we can do, if we mean to get through, is to wrestle with cares as they come. If we're tired and weary, well, let's never heed. We can rest as well when we get home. Cheer up then, I say, and keep hoping for best, for things are going to alter, and soon. All these wailings and discords are bound to die out, and give way for a merrier tune. Bide on a bit longer, tuck out once again, and do give all looking so foul, as we han battled and struggled and suffered so long. It's no use on giving up now. Samuel's optimism was justified. On December the 16th, 1864, General George H. Thomas, at the head of a 50,000-strong Union army, many of them freed slaves, crushed the 23,000-strong Confederate Army of Tennessee under the command of General Hood. On December the 21st, General Sherman telegraphed President Lincoln, saying he was giving him Savannah as a Christmas present. In his wake he had left a swathe of destruction some 60 miles wide. It stretched for 300 miles all the way back to Atlanta. In the spring of 1865, the Civil War finally ended, and with it the Cotton Famine. That in turn signalled the time was ripe for the upstart Disraeli to take on the Liberal Gladstone. Gladstone and the majority of the members of the Liberal government had supported the slave-owning states during the Civil War, and had in fact tried to get an alliance between Britain, France and Russia to intervene in the war under the guise of remaining neutral. In their disappointment at the victory of the Union and the ending of chattel slavery, the Liberals had once more become born-again supporters of the noble cause of parliamentary reform. John Bright, who had supported the Northern cause from the outset, surprised and no doubt disgusted by Gladstone's announcement, decided it was time to speak to Disraeli, and he found the wily Tory more than ready to take up the challenge. The Liberals were in for a shock, as were a great number of Tories. Within 2 years, Disraeli would defeat Gladstone at his own game, and under his leadership, a new extension of the franchise would be carried in the British Parliament, almost doubling the electorate to just under 2 millions, and giving the vote to a tiny section of working men for the first time. In turn, this would propel him to the position of undisputed leader of the Tory party, completing his long, hard climb up what he described as the greasy pole. In that same year of 1867, the reform movement in Britain's ex-penal colony of Australia would win the vote for all male adults, along with all the other demands of the People's Charter, excepting annual parliaments, largely thanks to the efforts of Chartists transported there from Britain and Ireland. The British people themselves paid the price for the export of the Chartist leadership to Australia. It would be another 51 years before we attained the right to vote for all adult males. Returning to 1865, Lancashire and Cheshire's hives of industry were soon back in steam, and the worker bees returned to their wage slavery. However, the town of Stalybridge and the surrounding area would never be quite the same again. In the March of 1863, riots had broken out in the town. I have already mentioned the fact that the relief paid in the town was greater than in some of the surrounding areas. In March 1863, however, the Relief Committee made some fateful decisions. The first was to sow a brand on all clothing they provided for sale, immediately making it obvious to all and sundry that the wearer of such clothing was out of work and the recipient of charity. Secondly, they decided to reduce the relief to 3 shillings and to provide all recipients with relief tickets instead of cash. These could only be exchanged for food and clothing at certain shops, and all those shops were owned by members of the Relief Committee. To add insult to injury, they could not be exchanged at the Stalybridge cooperative stores. Thirdly, they decided to pay the relief an extra day in hand. This meant, on the date the new system came into force, the relief tickets only covered 4 days' payments. Instead of receiving a ticket to the value of 3 shillings, they were paid 2 shillings and 5pence, a 20% reduction. Already angered by having to display a demeaning brand or go without clothing, the introduction of the tickets at a reduced amount stoked the operatives' fury to new heights. The changes had a blatant smell of corruption about them, as they could only exchange the tickets at shops owned by members of the relief committees that issued them. Thus, with tempers strained to boiling point, the sudden loss of a day's pay was the straw that broke the camel's back. The town rose in anger. Shops owned by the relief committee were attacked, broken into, and pillaged. Many were arrested, and then another great demonstration took place, as the police tried to get the arrested rioters to the railway station in order to have them transported to the Chester assizes. The townspeople revolted and did everything possible they could to free the imprisoned men. But there were other factors arising from the famine that affected Stalybridge in particular. The New Zealand government, desperate for single women in the colony, brought in their free emigration scheme. Over 1,000 residents of Stalybridge took advantage of this offer to start a new life on the other side of the world, and a good proportion of that 1,000 were in fact single women, cotton spinners in fact, highly independent young women whose wages enabled them to pick and choose when it came to the kind of person they would marry, many of them in fact remaining spinsters. Stalybridge's loss would prove New Zealand's gain. It was no accident that that country was the first to bring in votes for women, albeit in 1893, but again many decades before women won the right to vote here at home. Samuel himself continued to write poetry for a long time after the Civil War, although his health was broken. He had first started work in a woolen mill in West Yorkshire at the age of 9, before moving to Stalybridge and commencing an apprenticeship in the cotton industry. The years of toil and the cotton dust getting into his lungs, and no doubt the privation during the cotton famine itself, had taken their toll, and he was suffering from mill fever, his lungs severely damaged. Luckily, in 1865, he became the librarian at the Stalybridge Mechanics Institute, and a few years later obtained similar employment in Fleetwood. In the intervening period, he had moved to Blackpool for the sake of his health. It has become very fashionable in recent times for the present Conservative Prime Minister to talk about British values, but I suspect the values espoused by Samuel Laycock in his poetry has nothing whatsoever to do with the capitalist-motivated and greed-dominated values of our Tory Prime Minister or his cabinet. Luckily, the values of solidarity and mutual assistance that prevail throughout Samuel Laycock's poetry can still be found amongst the ordinary people of our country. Let's leave the last word to Samuel, who leaves us with a message particularly relevant to the times we live in. John Bull and his tricks. Oh, for shame on thee, John, for shame on thee, John, the murdering old thief that thou art. Thou'rt a burning disgrace to humanity, mon, though thou think'st thyself clever and smart. Thou art a beggar for sending out Bibles and beer, and calling it civilization, while thee and thy dear Christian countrymen here are chatting and lying like Satan. Thee tap my advice, John, and get a good brush, and sweep well about thy own door, and put the bit of the land that thou stolen to some use, ere thou offers to steal any more. And let thievens a be, for there's no need to fear that they're likely to get into hell. My opinion is this: if there's anyone near a place of that muck, it's thyself. It's thee at I mean, John, thou hypocrite, thou, with thy Sundayfied, sanctified looks. Dost to think at all milk comes from the paps of thy cow? Is all the wisdom bound up in thy boots? And what about the mixture of cotton and clay that thou thrusts on thy unwilling neighbours? John, thou'rt a cure, but thou'll catch it some day, when there's ended these damnable labours. Thou may well tell the Lord what a wretch thou art, John, for thou pulls a long face on a Sunday, and to prove what thou says, thou does all that thou can to rob the poor neighbours on Monday. What business hast thou to go batting thy wings and crowing on other folks' middin? Dost to think thy black brothers such mean cringing things as to give up their homes at thy bidding? And thou's the cheek to thank God when thou meets with success, as if he stooped to sanction such work. Now one would have thought that thou couldn't have done less and to keep such like actions in dark. If thou means to go on with committing these sins that'll never get washed out or forgiven, thou should try to keep matters as quiet as thou can, and ne'er let them know up in heaven. Thou were always a bull-yed in best o' thy days, and this all thy neighbours must know. And though thou seems pious and pulls a long face, they come honest to see through it all. But when they goes sneaking and tries to cheat God, it strikes me that going too far. I'm no much surprised at thy impudence, John. I'm only surprised how thou dar. What business hast thou to be sending out thieves to steal slices off other folks' bread? It would look better on thee to roll up thy sleeves and work for thy living instead. I'll tell thee what, John, and take notice o' this. Thou never knew a nation to thrive where the bees preferred feeding to good honest work. They're like drones stealing honey from thive. If thou's the sense of a jackass, thou'll tarry a home and keep th'own garden in fettle. But thou'd rather be out with thy Bible and gun and robbing some other mon's cattle. Now drop these mean tricks, this contemptible wrong, and behave a bit more like a mon, or I'll give thee another warm dose before long, for I'm greatly ashamed on thee, John. This audio was produced by Radio Solidarity, which can be accessed at malcspooks.com.